Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. I hope you've had a good weekend. Mine's a bit chilly, as you can tell, but it's not bad. We had some good boxing on, and in fact, last night, or this morning if you're in the UK, because it was in the early hours, Jaron Ennis repeated his win over Karen, I always call him Chukhadzhian, that's the incorrect pronunciation. We'll call him Karen. How about that? Yeah, it was a repeat win anyway for Ennis. Unanimous decision, wide, but he did struggle in places and he was hit way too much. All right, this is Ennis I'm talking about. Now, at the moment, Ennis is 33 wins with 27 KOs, no draws, no defeats. He's 27 years old. And he defended his IBF welterweight title against Chukhadzhian, and because he struggled, because he didn't look that impressive, because our friend Karen went the distance, suddenly, the naysayers have come in and Jaron Ennis was always hyped and he's rubbish and everything that went before is useless. And all the platitudes that people have given him previously were, we were all conned. Look, let's have a little bit of perspective here, okay? I'll repeat, he got hit too much. Did he vary his work enough? You can argue he didn't. He's a little bit one-paced. Couldn't get the guy out of there. But then he'd been 12 rounds with him before. In fact, he'd won every single round on every card in the first fight. This one was much more of a struggle. Okay? But as usual, the truth probably lies somewhere in the middle. It doesn't mean that Ennis is suddenly talentless, that he was a hype job, that he's rubbish, that, let's have a bit of perspective, okay? You do have to ask yourself, why did he struggle this time round, whereas previously he completely dominated, Karen? Well, first of all, let's talk about weight, okay? Because Ennis is an enormous welterweight. And he still makes the weight well, and he got clocked regularly flush by Chukhadzhian, but he didn't go anywhere. Okay. Now, the fact that you're getting hit cleanly, even if it's by a quote-unquote non-puncher, means that you can't be that badly weight drained. Because 9 times out of 10, or even 99 out of 100 times, if you're badly weight drained, your punch resistance is diminished. And at no point was Ennis ever really stung. He wasn't really buzzed at all. So is it easier for him to make 154? Of course it is. Of course it would be. But would he be, incrementally stronger? Yeah, I would imagine so. Would he have more energy? Yes, probably. But of course the guys are bigger and they've got heavier hands, generally speaking, at 154. So the weight thing, I'm sort of thinking yes and no. Yes, it may be that he needs to move up to 154. If you're part of his team, you will know that. I'm not part of his team, so I don't know for certain. But it looked to me like he was still able to make the weight with something left. He's not entirely drained. Number 2, defensively, clearly he needs to shore up his defense. Okay, because it wasn't just this fight; it was the previous fight as well against David Avanesyan. And Avanesyan is a very good European level fighter, but when he's moved up to world level, he's been found wanting. I think he's got 3 stoppage defeats on his record. Bud knocked him flat, and there was a previous fight against, I want to say, one of those Eastern European fighters. What was his name? It'll come to me in a moment. But yeah, at very good European level, Avanesyan is a terrific fighter, and we all have our ceilings. It's just that Avanesyan's not quite world level, but a good fighter. He got stopped in 5 rounds by Boots, but he was still landing punches. Again, flush punches. So Boots defensively, quite slack. Why is that? Well, probably it's because he's now had 33 fights, but prior to fighting Avanesyan, he was having things his own way. He was blasting people out of the water. He has got into this habit of, thinking I can just smash through people. I can use physical strength mixed in with my skills. I don't have to worry with my offensive skills. I don't have to worry too much about defense because I've got a pretty good chin, and these guys, they're they always look smaller than Ennis because Ennis is so big for the weight. And defence is fine, but I'd rather gamble. I'd rather be very cavalier, come forward, be very proactive constantly with my offence, and I'll put defence on the back burner. That's a secondary thought almost. Always a bad thing to do. Always a bad thing to forget defence, to say my chin's okay. These guys can't hurt me. Blah blah blah. One day someone comes along and does hurt you. So defensively, they need to work on things. Okay. He was neglecting his defence in both those fights. He certainly was against Karen yesterday. All right. Third one, corner work. Crap corner work. Ennis, his father, I don't care how good he's been in the past. That was lousy corner work. Knock him out. Come on, get rid of him. Knock him out. Do you want to tell your fighter how? You are someone on the outside looking in, and this applies to every trainer, of course. The purpose of a trainer in seconds is that they watch from the outside. When you're a fighter, you're in the eye of the storm. It's like having your face pressed up against a picture or a photo or a painting or something. You can't see it until you move it back, and then you look at it and you think, oh, so that's what it is. The trainer, the seconds, are looking at it from the outside. They are giving an objective view, and they are noticing things that the fighter won't notice. You want him to knock him out? Okay, tell him how. Okay, you need to jab more. You need to, you need to switch hit, a bit. Give him sort of half little semicircle angle. I don't know, whatever the hell it is, you need to tell your fighter how to go about knocking him out. Just saying, knock him out. That falls into the trap of simply falling in love with your offense. And it can, you hit harder than him. Go out there and knock him out. Come on, what are you doing? Tell him what Chukhadzhian was doing that is preventing Boots from knocking him out. Say to him, he's made, I can see that every time I'll just pull this out the top of my head, every time he jabs, he doesn't bring his jab back quick enough, or every time he throws a hook, he leans over the front foot, or whatever it may be, you notice something and you tell your fighter, and the fighter goes, okay, I got that. All right. So terrible corner work. Terrible. It's really awful. You went to the Teofimo Lopez's dad of corner work, I think, but it was awful. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But anyway, that's another thing. Okay, wait. Well, this ties in with the whole idea of again simply concentrating on offense, and that is the argument of the weight bully. Now, I don't like the phrase weight bully, because if you make the weight, you make the weight. And if you are, bone dry and you end up getting knocked to bits, smashed up, that's on you. But if you do make the weight and you win, well, you've made the weight. So weight bully, I don't like the phrase. I think there's a lot of myths around it. Yeah, I'm not keen on that phrase, but I know what people mean by it. Depends on the rehydration clause as well, and this is the IBF. The IBF have £10 rehydration clause. So, was Ennis a weight bully in this instance? I don't really think so. No, I don't really think so. Then there's complacency. Ennis had fought him before, had won every single round on every card. So he was going to be complacent. And you can talk about, well, I'm not complacent. I'm a professional, and you can go through your usual, weight making and your drills and all your road work or whatever. I don't think they do road work anymore, do they? It's normally all done in a gym. But you can do all that stuff, and up here you're on it, okay, but subconsciously you just can't quite, in here, you can't quite get the motivation to fight someone who you've fought before, who's a mandatory, who's been thrust on you that you never wanted. And, once the fight starts and you realise you cannot get him out of there early, suddenly it's a long night and you think, oh, God, I've got to go through this and do all this. And oh, my God, he's hitting me back. Cheeky sod. What's he hitting me? Oh, he's hit me again. Oh, So there is that. When you're in there, it's very, very difficult to change tactics if you're if you haven't planned for it, like plan B, plan C. If you plan for it, you think, okay, there's a chance that this might happen or that might happen, and I'll have to do that. That is very, very different, because you're preparing and you're getting in your mind, you're getting your mindset. Very different from in the ring. You think, hang on, I've got to change things here, and doing it off the cuff, on the fly. Very difficult to do that, very difficult. And I think there was an element of that with Ennis. So you put all this together, and what have you got? Well, you've got a bad day at the office. You've got one more thing I should mention is the opponent. Of course, I should mention this. They fight far better, tactically extremely different to how they did the first time. Now, apart from the fact that can throw, like in this case, might have thrown Ennis and his team off completely, which is why you should always have a plan A, B, and C and get it prepared. Obviously, it will increase the chances of victory for the previously beaten opponent, because suddenly they've learned from their mistakes. They've said, okay, I did this wrong, I did that wrong. And in the week, the build up to this fight, Chukhadzhian was saying, hey, I know I was lousy in that first fight, and here's what I'm going to do different. And he was actually saying it. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. He was saying it openly. And Boots and his team weren't paying a blind bit of attention. So that contributed greatly. So what does this all add up to? Well, it adds up to, like I said, a bad day at the office. Boots was not on point in so many respects. But does this suddenly mean he's a complete hype job and he's crap and he couldn't beat anyone? I mean, no, of course it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. This idea, well, you're only as good as your last fight. I mean, it's one of the most stupid things that anyone can believe. He's never mind the 32 fights that went before this last fight. Well, he was terrible, so he must be terrible. No. You've heard the expression, form is temporary, talent is permanent. And there is no doubt that Jaron Boots Ennis has immense talent. Okay. His form, in the last two fights hasn't been great. And yes, there are clearly things to work on. But don't write this guy off. Don't suddenly start thinking this guy was overrated. Now, all right, I'll tell you what. Let's run with that last little bit. Let's say he was overrated. Does that mean he's rubbish? Does that mean he's not very, very good? Does that mean he can't improve at 27? There's still room for improvement, Of course not. You can be overrated and still be extremely good. There was some clown on a boxing Facebook page yesterday who was swearing blind that Naoya Inoue is a hype job, is a can crusher, has never beaten anyone. I mean, all I said was I left a comment saying, just how ignorant of boxing do you have to be to leave such a moronic comment or words to that effect? And he said, well, he left another comment saying, well, disprove what I said. No, mate, I don't have to disprove anything. You made the statement. It's up to you. The onus of proof is on the person that makes the statement, and that's you, not me, right? You come up with your reasons why you think Inoue's crap, and then I'll tell you why he isn't, okay? You can't make a statement with nothing to back it and then say, well, you disprove it. No, you prove it. You made the statement, you prove it. And it's the same with Ennis. Anyone who's saying he's complete shite, is so far wide of the mark as far as I'm concerned. But I'm quite prepared to concede he didn't look good again in the rematch with Karen. I'm absolutely prepared to concede that point. But let's have some perspective here. Let's look at the bigger picture. Okay, Jaron Ennis is still an extremely good fighter, extremely good, and he can get better. Maybe he does need to move to 154 as well. But he's only 27. 27 isn't 37. All right, he's got time to improve, time to learn from his mistakes. And by the way, he's still 33-0 with no draws. So there we are. Anyway, tell me what you think. And if you do think he's overrated, tell me why you think. Don't say, oh, he's overrated. Tell me why you think he's overrated. Okay, because you're entitled to your opinion. I ain't going to slag you off or nothing. As long as we're respectful, that's fine. But you tell me why you think he's overrated. All right. Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks in advance for your comments as well. I'll give them a read. And yeah, please subscribe to the channel if you're new. Please hit the like button if you're new. It's all free. It takes you a second and you're helping out the, the channel a great deal by doing that. We want to build it up. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed, and bye for now.